You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hey, so today we are going to be talking about one of my absolutely favorite topics to talk about, cleaning. If I ever did another podcast, I would make it about cleaning. I would make it about designing, like interior design, because that's also what I love to do. I would make it about kids, because I have a gazillion of them. And and you know what else I'd make it about? I'd make it about skincare and like vitamins and stuff like that, because I love researching about that stuff. But since I don't have that other podcast, and since you're listening because you're probably in a lot of pain right now and you have bigger issues to deal with than like what face cream to wear or, how to get, your house decorated or whatever, I'm going to talk to you about cleaning. Now, you might go, Michelle, what the heck does cleaning have to do with addiction? A lot, actually. We talk about tools. We give you tons of tools, right? Well, cleaning is one of the tools that can have many, many benefits when you are living in chaos, because addiction is chaos. Addiction provides instability. Addiction can make us feel incredibly out of control. And so we're like, wait a second, you don't need to stay in out of control. You don't need to continue to live in, this land of unpredictability. Let's take accountability for you and your life and your actions. And one of the ways to do that is to maintain and keep order and cleanliness in your home, in your car, in your work area or your workspace. Let me tell you how healing, and this might sound crazy, you just spending the afternoon organizing a closet, how healing that can be. Because what it does is it provides you the ability to make decisions about all the items in your life and say, do I want this? Do I need this? Does this give me joy? Does this serve a purpose? And if not, if you're willing to be honest with yourself, you can donate it, which will also make you feel good because somebody else will benefit from that item, or you can toss it, which will make you feel good because it's cleansing. It's healthy to let go. Do you see the theme? Letting go of the items in your life helps you let go of the things you cannot control, like your loved ones' addiction. It's good practice, is what I'm trying to say. It's symbolic. It's a small gesture that makes a big difference. And it starts with being honest with yourself, which is something it's actually one of the things I teach in the Love Over Addiction program. The very first things I think I teach is all about taking self-inventory and how to do that, which requires us to be brutally honest with ourselves and for you to be honest with me and say what is really going on in your life. So when it comes to cleaning, you need to be brutally honest with yourself about all of the things around your house and in your car that you should have probably gotten rid of a long time ago, and why you're holding on to them. Why are you holding on to things that give you no joy, that serve you no purpose? Is it because you're afraid of letting them go? Is it because you don't necessarily think you have the courage to tackle the issue of clutter or disorganization? Because you do. I'm going to say a word in a couple seconds, and half of you listening are going to hear the words and go, oh yeah, I need to learn more about that. And then the other half of you might hear the word I'm about to mention and roll your eyes and secretly think, Michelle, seriously, how many times are you going to talk about this? But I have good news for both the eye rollers and the curious enthusiasts. But before I get to the good news, allow me to share with you the word I am referring to. Ready for it? Boundaries. If you fall into the curious, enthusiastic group, your good news is that we've created a free, simple guide sheet that will teach you the easiest way to implement the basics of boundaries. Get your guide sheet by going to loveoveraddiction.com/129. And for those of you eye rollers, don't worry, no offense taken. The good news for you is that this week's episode is not about boundaries. You're welcome. I'm going to give you an example. So my dad, who I love and adore, lives in an apartment in New York City, and he's lived there for a long time. And my dad grew up poor, very poor. So he grew up in a boarding school in England. He's British, very British. And he was so poor that they could not afford anything but bread and jam. And so he was malnourished. And he became bald and lost his hair at the age of 18 due to malnutrition. Now, my dad grew up and became an incredibly successful businessman and went to Harvard and, very, very great success story. But he's always had this tendency to hang on to stuff longer than he should. And the reason why I think he does that is because the fear of giving things away stems out of the memories and the triggers of his childhood of having not much. So he has a hard time letting things go because he lives in a space of, I'm going to get this word wrong, sparsity. You guys, oh my God, I'm so dyslexic. You know what I'm talking about, where he believes that he's never going to get enough. He's going to lose everything he has. It's actually very, very common for people who grew up poor and then acquired wealth at a later age. Sparsity. Is it sparsity? You guys, I'm not going to let that go through the whole podcast. That's going to bug me. Please write me and tell me what that word is that I'm trying to think of. Okay. So anyways, when I visit my dad in his apartment, it drives me crazy because I am notorious and I have a reputation in my family with my friends for throwing things out. I hate clutter. I want everything organized. I want everything in its place, and I cannot stand holding on to things that don't serve me because I formed this habit when I was married to my ex-husband who suffers from addiction. I formed the habit that I'm about to teach you of clearing away the unnecessary crap so that we can make space to breathe, so that we can make space to heal, so that when we look around or we open a junk drawer or we open our closets, we see order, we see organization, and that brings us a sense of joy and a sense of peace. Instead of opening a junk drawer and feeling overwhelmed and beating ourselves up about the fact that we don't have anything together in our lives and we can't find anything, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like, when somebody, if you have a child or you have a friend and they say, do you have some tape or do you have some scissors? There is a small amount, but significant amount of joy that comes from opening a drawer and knowing exactly where they are, as opposed to kind of that little voice in your head that beats yourself up when somebody asks for a pair of scissors and you can't find them. So back to my dad, I used to visit him in New York, and I would walk into his apartment and it would just be clutter everywhere. And I remember being pregnant with Henry, very pregnant with Henry. And when I say I'm pregnant, I am pregnant, like 70 pounds gaining pregnant. I enjoy my babies. I enjoy being pregnant. I love a good cinnamon roll and a brownie and milk duds and all that good stuff when I am pregnant. I don't care what that says about me. I love it. And so with every child, I was so big. But I flew to see my dad. I was 7 months pregnant. And I was like, I can't stand this anymore. You need to leave. And you need to let me do my magic on your apartment. And you need to give me full permission to go through your stuff and decide what you need and what to donate. And my dad, being the trooper that he is and incredibly trusting, said, okay. So I think he went to a hotel, but he might have gone to a friend's house. I don't even know. And my husband, who is the best man in the entire world, we flew back up there with a game plan. It was phase 1. And because I had phases. Phase 1 was donate, toss, cull through every inch of this apartment. And it was close to, I don't even know how many square feet it was, but it was big. And I got, it was so full of stuff. And because I was pregnant, I got a mask, like one of those like painter's mask. And I must have got over 150 garbage bags full of stuff. I worked so hard. I think I worked too hard because my belly started to hurt and I actually was in a little bit of pain by the end of the weekend, which was not probably healthy, although Henry turned out great. But I worked so hard at going through everything: bedding, books, clothing, soap in the dishwasher, in the plates in the kitchen, like even the takeout, like the sushi chopsticks, all of the frozen food that had been in the freezer sitting there for a year, the 12 bottles of shampoo when only one is needed, the clothing that hadn't been worn in months, even photographs. Like, we don't need 1,000 photographs. Pick your favorite 100 or 200, whatever, then get rid of them or put them in an envelope and mail them to family members. Whatever. I went through everything. In fact, I went through so much stuff that he was so grateful, but I made one mistake that he will not let me live down. I threw away his 3-hole punch, and I don't know why. It must have just been like, whatever, he doesn't need this. It's a 3-hole punch. He probably had like one of the individual hole punchers, whatever. He is still upset that I threw away his 3-hole punch. But then that was phase 1. So that felt really, really good. And he still was not allowed to come home after that. The second time I flew up there, I also donated most, if not all, of his furniture. I think I kept his bed. Maybe I got him a new bed. Anyways, I donated most of his furniture. I donated his couches, his coffee tables, his side tables, all of it. And I went to Pottery Barn and got all new stuff, had it delivered. I also had the apartment painted and regrouted and all of it. That was phase 2. And then once everything was in its place, all the knickknacks were there, everything was perfect. My sweet husband, who is not a handyman and did not even own a screwdriver when I met him, true story, he hung up the curtains. To be fair, I'm not quite sure if they're still hanging up, because they might have fallen down, but I want to say they're still up. Anyways, the point is that it was a team effort. And my dad came home, and for years he thanked me because it was so emotional. He said, Michelle, I have not been able to invite people back to my apartment because I've been kind of ashamed and embarrassed. And now, I want everybody, all my friends, to come to my apartment and see the work and see. I'm so proud of it. I'm so happy. And I found things in his apartment that were beautiful things that he should have had framed. So I framed them and hung them up on the wall and really I framed pictures that meant something to him. And I removed all the things that didn't. He had an abusive relationship with a woman while I was in boarding school. And she had, went out and furnished the apartment. And I think even just the cleansing of items that stopped reminding him, he didn't have the courage to donate them because they were expensive and because he felt, frivolous. But for me, it was yeah, we're getting rid of that because that woman gave you that. So it's tossed. And I think just having those items that didn't constantly remind him of that really bad period of his life really helped cleanse the palate, really helped make him feel healed in a way. So that's what does organization and cleaning have to do with addiction? A lot. And it's something we kind of have never talked about. So I hope that story inspires you to take a look around you and make the time to really organize yourself. And of course, I've asked our community and the women in our secret Facebook group for their helpful cleaning tips because spring is right around the corner, and what better time than to really make space, take self-inventory, and kind of commit, not to a minimalistic mindset, but to a mindset of this is a great way to continue my healing, to take one step further to learn how to let go of things that I need to let go of. So without further ado, here are some helpful tips from our community.
I plant flower seeds from my flower boxes. It's so amazing to watch them grow and to be able to transplant them outside.
Gardening in my greenhouse and getting the outside ready for spring. This spring, I plan on doing some major decluttering of my closet. This is very much overdue.
Decluttering always feels so great to me. I feel instantly happier and lighter.
Planning veggies to plant. My kiddos love watching and eating their homegrown goods.
Sometimes it feels overwhelming to spring clean the entire house. I start with a super small area that will have a big impact. I have a little entryway table with a few baskets, a lamp, and some small decorations. And it's the first thing I see when I walk in the house. So that's where I start. I spend an hour deep cleaning that small space, and it has a huge impact. Sometimes that's just enough motivation for me to pick up another small area of the house and then work on to the next.
Do you ever have those nights where you lay in bed and can't sleep because things feel so out of control? Are you wondering if the one you love will ever change? If they will ever get sober for good? Or maybe you're beating yourself up because you think you may have done something that influenced their decision to drink or do drugs. Are you worried because you're trying to do everything you can think of to help, but nothing seems to work? You would do anything to feel better. I know you. To have more stability, to feel at peace about your future. I get it. And for almost 10 years, I was up late at night worrying just like you. But here's the good news. There are answers. There are solutions and some very specific things that you can do so that you can start sleeping like a baby without fear or worry, if they get sober or not. How do I know this? Because I figured out how to do just that. And more importantly, thousands of other women have joined me and have had the same success. Are you doubting me? That's okay. Your trust has been broken a lot lately, so I don't blame you. You want proof. You want to be sure that if you take the courageous step and ask for help by joining our programs, they will work, right? That makes total sense to me. Go to loveoveraddiction.com/LOA. And at the bottom of the page, you will see many, many women share how they transformed their life after joining our community. Now, you don't have to commit, and you don't have to join just yet if you're not ready. Just read about it. And then ask yourself, it's a new year. Is this going to be the year that you finally go to bed with peace in your heart and confidence about your future? I hope so, because I know that you deserve that. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed those tips. I love these women, and I love us, and I love what we're building together, and I love that we're growing so much. I can't believe how fast we're growing. Thank you for those of you who write me and tell me that you are recommending this to your friends and family. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. We don't do a ton of social media. We don't do a ton of marketing at all. That's not where we put our efforts. We just rather write things and produce things that help you. So we really rely on you guys to share with other people about us, and you are doing so. So thank you, thank you. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next week. You know what I find super interesting? That sharing about our struggles with addiction can make us feel ashamed. It is crazy how many successful, wise, funny, and gifted human beings drink too much or struggle with addiction. And if every one of us who loved someone struggling, if we raised our hand and said, "Me too," I think we could say, "Time's up, addiction." For those of you willing to have the courage to leave a review for this podcast, you are directly raising your hand and helping say, "Time's up, addiction." Even though you don't have to use your real name or provide any personal details, when you give us 5 stars or write a review, you're helping women get support. You're saying, this social cause deserves our attention. Because the more reviews we receive, the more women directly know about this podcast. So thank you so much for leaving us a review. It's a small but profound gesture that really makes a difference.